Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I ended up reading this December. So going into December, I had a lot of ambitions as to what I would be reading this month, and it kind of backfired on me. Like, I finished my exams on the 14th, but then I was so busy and all that, and I finished my big book at that point, but it took me a while to read, about 2 weeks to read the other one. So yeah, so I only read 2 books this month, but overall I really enjoyed both of these. So I feel like I ended, although I didn't read a lot as much as I wanted to, I still met my 50 book for 2017 reading goal, and then I also really enjoyed these 2 books. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So the first book that I ended up reading for the first half of the month was Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray, and this is the 3rd book in the Diviners series, I want to say. I don't know how many books this series is going to have. Originally I thought it was a trilogy, but it's not anymore. But basically the premise of this is that it takes place in the 1920s during in New York, and basically it follows these group of kind of teenagers who are known as diviners, who have these special gifts. Either they can touch an object and know its history, or kind of heal people. So they have these special gifts, and there is this kind of dark force called the King of Crows that has kind of been unleashed, and all this stuff's going on. I don't want to give too much away because this is the 3rd book, but that's the general premise of the series, and I really like this. I love the first book. It really freaked me out, but it was really well done. The author is very atmospheric, and I can picture myself in New York during the Roaring 20s, and it was just amazing. So I really love the first book. The second book, I didn't like new additions to some of the new additions that we got to know, and it's not my favorite of I was really kind of put off by the series, but I was like, I'll give it another try because I do love Libba Bray. I read the Great and Terrible Beauty series when I was in high school, and I really loved it, so I was like, I'll give this a try. And I was not disappointed. This book literally blew me away. It took me a while just kind of get back in the groove in this world, but I could not put it down, and it was so creepy. And it was just once I got past maybe the first 50 or so pages, I could not put it down, and it's just under 600 pages. It's a big book, and it did take me a while to read, maybe reading it during finals week, the weeks kind of leading up to finals week, and during finals week was not the best idea. But yeah, I really liked it, and it was so good. This book left it was just the plot really develops a lot in here, and you can tell the author was using the first 2 books to kind of set everything up, and this is where we kind of get the kind of questions that we have about the King of Crows and what actually is going on. And the last 50 pages or so much goes down, and it was oh my god, I have to wait maybe over a year for the next one, because this one, it was 2 years since the second one and this one came out, so maybe 1+ year until the next one comes out. But it was just really good, and if you were deterred by the second one, you have to stick through this one because it was amazing. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. My only complaint is that there's still some characters that I'm not a fan of. I hate Mabel for some reason. I don't know what it is. So I think my favorite characters are Evie, Theta, and Sam. I just think they're really interesting. Like I said, Mabel, and then I'm blanking on her other name. Blanking on this other character's name for some reason. But yeah, those 2 characters I can't stand, and they really annoy me. But I love those characters. Especially with, I think Evie in particular, we get to see a lot of growth with her, which was really nice. And it's very diverse as well, I will say. It covers basically all the bases, whether it's LGBTQ, African Americans and all that. And because it does take place in the 1920s, the author does not sugarcoat kind of the racial issues that were going on, and there was a lot of parallels to what's happening in our political climate, and in the author's note as well. Let me find it real quick, because I was She goes, as I write this, we are in an especially divisive era in American politics. There are questions about who holds power, who abuses it, who profits from it, and at what cost to our democracy. It's a time of questions about what makes us American, of shifting identities, inclusion and exclusion, protest, civil and human rights, the strengths of our compassion versus the weakness of our fears, and the seductive lure of a mythic great past that never was versus the need for the consciousness and responsibility necessary if we are to truly live up to the rich promises of we the people. We are a country built by immigrants, dreams, daring, and opportunity. We are a country built by the horrors of slavery and genocide, the injustice of racism and exclusion. These realities exist side by side. It is our past and our present. The future is unwritten. This is a ghost about books, for we live in a haunted house. And I think that perfectly describes like everything that's going on, and like the author does not sugarcoat like the racism and like how people with mental health issues were treated in the eugenics movement, and I think that was really powerful. So like I said, I really love this book. And finally, the last book that I read in 2017 was Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna, and this was the Tales and Teacups book club pick for this month. And this is one that I've had on my shelf for a while, but I decided this would be a good time. Like we have like over a foot of snow here, so like I feel like this cover is suiting. But basically the premise of this is that it follows like all of Kristen Hanna books. They kind of follow women. In this case, it follows a mother and her two daughters, which are grown women, but the like between this family, like they don't have a very good relationship at all. The mother is very cold and distant, and because of that the daughters don't really have a good relationship with each other or their mother as well. But when their father, who was like the linchpin and the glue of the family, dies, like everything goes into chaos, and his dying wish was for his wife to tell his daughters the story of the prince and the girl, which is a fairy tale. So when the mother goes around trying to tell the girls the story, they kind of realize that maybe there's more to this fairy tale that meets the eye, and that maybe there is kind of some truth to this, because the fairy tale takes place during the siege of Leningrad, and this book was just amazing. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, I want to say, maybe 4.5 or a 5, I don't remember which one. I'm like totally blanked. I've like holiday season. But yeah, I like this book. It took me a while, like the first 100 pages or so, it took me a while to get into it, but once kind of the story tale is kind of woven into the story, like I couldn't put it down. And I was just doing a lot of traveling, so this is why it took me like 2 weeks to read this one too, and like holidays and all that. But like this book was really good, and I think if you are a fan of it, like historical fiction taking place during World War II, I think this one is a really unique one to read, because not only is it contemporary in the sense that it's focusing on these women's life after their father's death, but it also kind of interweaves the siege of Leningrad, which is something that I don't think is really kind of like focused on a lot during historical fiction World War II era. So it's really unique in that sense, and the author is just very descriptive. You can tell this is a well-researched book, and like she can seamlessly weave in the two storylines, which, like as I said, once that got in, like I couldn't put it down, and I didn't feel like the book lost momentum like when it would change between the past and the present. And it's just so good, and it's a heartbreaking read, and you feel a lot of emotions after reading this. And I think those are like the books that are the most impactful, where you just like finish the last page and you're like, oh my god. But yeah, this was just an amazing book, and I'm very happy that I finished out the year with this amazing book. Like these past 2 books that I read in December were, although it's not I didn't read as much as I wanted to, I felt the quality of them were just amazing. So if you haven't already, really pick up like any Kristen Hanna book. I think they're just amazing, and this one is the 7th one I've read it from hers, and it's just really good. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books, or what you thought about them, or what were some of the books that you read in December. I'd love to know. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.